All right, the countdown is up. That means this podcast is beginning. I think I've lost track. Somehow I've lost my enthusiasm as a podcast host. I am shirking my duty to not even necessarily know what number it is. I think it's number 63. Joe Resis and I sort of went solo for the month of June. We have re-added Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, we've caught her between world travels, ballpark travels, Disney travels or whatnot, or hosting. We've managed to get her just calm, not just give her assignments to write or other things to do, but actually, hey, how about let's do a podcast together. So Melissa has joined us. Thank you for being with us, Melissa. 3 is better than 2. No offense, Joe. You know, we had a fun time. We somehow managed to talk for like an hour. I don't know how we did that. I'm scared to look at the recording. But this hour or maybe less will just breeze by as we talk about 6 teams in the system. Some we will hardly talk about at all. My name is Brett Ballantini, hosting this number 63. I think I've introduced my guest, but we have Super Joe Resis, who is our minors writer on Wednesdays, and he does the Players of the Week, Player of the Month. We are doing July, so we're on the heels of Shane Murphy. Just give the man the award, retire it. Let's start up a new one, because Shane Murphy, I'm convinced, might, until the White Sox call him up, hey, White Sox, that he might just win. He just might win out. So I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit about Shane Murphy, but that's sort of the reason we do these podcasts once a month. We time it with Joe's Players of the Month. And the Player of the Month was Shane Murphy, but Joe makes sure to cite any of the folks that I'm skipping through because after all, you're the writer doing the heavy lifting. And speaking of heavy lifting, Melissa Sage-Bollenbach doing a podcast and writing a minors update. Somehow I seem to always be getting the double headers this year, although you got one not long ago, but Saturdays are really rough for double headers. Why do I have Saturdays? Thank God I'm paid by the game. Anyway, okay. So as we usually do, I'm going to ask my 2 guests to sit politely, yell at me if you want to, but I'm just going to run down what the affiliates are doing because I don't know if you listen to this, you care about what the affiliates are doing. Charlotte, our AAA team, 15-16 in the second half. 51-55 overall. And as much as we want to act disappointed by Charlotte, like, man, they can't say 500. This is unprecedented territory for Charlotte. The fact that they're even within 4 or 5 games of 500, still with a fairly ragtag assortment, because the real prospects just like blow through AAA. Sometimes they bypass it entirely. So the fact that Sergio Santos is somehow stitching together an almost 500 team, hey, hats off to him. They are in 7th place in the International League East. Their run differential for the season is -22. They are 12th overall in the International League. Not great, but again, we're used to being in the basement, below the basement. So well done, Sergio. Birmingham Barons. Sit down. Birmingham hasn't lost for about 3 months. They're 24-9 in the second half. They are 7.5 ahead in the second half, and that's pretty key. I mean, they're going to I shouldn't say fall asleep and win because they tend to fall asleep and then they don't make the playoffs. They backed into it last year, and of course, thank God they had the nice run to win the Southern League title and make us think we have a decent farm system. But at 24-9, 7.5 up. I mean, there are not that many games left. I don't think they've clinched it, but man, they got to be close. And they didn't quite make it. Again, they sort of backed out in the first half. So they needed to win. In all likelihood, they needed to win the division in the second half to make the playoffs. 62-40 overall. There was a time this year. Again, either one of you can yell at me if I got things way off at any time here. This little spiel doesn't have to be uninterrupted. They're like close to 500. They were slumping for a while. So again, I think they've won about 45 games in a row. They have a +85 run differential. Obviously, they're first in the North, first overall in the Southern League. They're just killing it. They got some prospects, so maybe they should be killing it, but they weren't killing it for a while. So whatever they did to turn things around, well done, Birmingham. Winston-Salem, near and dear to Joe Reese's heart, 14-21, go figure, in the second half. 39-61. They've been trying to, but they just played head-to-head. The team that was right in front of them for 15th place in the whatever it is. And they didn't quite. I think they had a game rained out, so they couldn't quite pass them with a win in the finale. but they're right there. They might not be in the base by season's end. 39-61, though, they still are 12th overall in the Sally, negative 60 run differential. Okay, let's move on to Winston-Salem. I'm just humoring Joe. Kannapolis, sort of disappointing. They are not going to follow up this year with the playoffs the way they did a year ago. 17-19, not bad. They're basically a 500 team, 49-53 overall, but just not good enough. They're sort of buried in the division. Plus 2 run differential. Record should be better than it is, I suppose. 5th in their division, 9th if you take into account the entire league. Again, they can get hot. They need to eat whatever Birmingham's eaten before games, but doesn't look very likely for a playoff repeat. ACL has finished. Why do they play these games? Should they just be backfield games? First place in the ACL West, but in a tie, 33-27. And because of a tiebreaker, it could have been how much we like the uniforms. It could have been anything. The tiebreaker had them out of the playoffs. There's 15 teams and 2 or 3 or 4 teams make what? Ridiculous.
I believe 4. Yeah.
4. Okay, Joe's trying to make an argument for the ACL, and I'm pissed because they're already making these kids play in 108 degrees at 8 p.m. or 11 a.m. Let everybody make the playoffs. What's the point? The season's already over. That's a ridiculous league. Even the DSL's still playing. I guess they started later. All right. DSL 19-22. Does anyone care or no? It's a ridiculous league. You got to play somewhere to start, I guess. These kids, you're old if you're 18 in that league. I believe Saturday's game was a 6-error game for the DSL White Sox. I mean, I'd like to say that's not routine, but that's sort of routine. But we are going to talk about someone who started the season in the DSL at some point in this podcast and has made a bit of a mark. So Joe and Melissa, let's kick things off. Of course, we can go off the board at any time because I don't have a lot of notes here. Melissa's are typed up. Joe's are just in his head because that's the way the guy operates. So I have one name here, Shane Murphy, and that's he's our player of the month. He has just been killing it. I mean, at first when he won even maybe a first player of the month or won his first 8 player of the weeks in a row, sort of like, man, maybe this guy could sort of make a run into major. And that was more like, you put an asterisk there, but he's got to be their prime starter for a call-up if the White Sox go that route. There's no one truly worthy of merit. I don't think there's a player worthy of merit in Charlotte, but, pitching staff, as always, is sort of stitched together. So you might tap right from, I don't know. I think Shane Murphy could be the next guy up, and the White Sox are probably going to need a next guy up. Thoughts on Shane? Because he's crushing it.
Yeah, he won again today. He's 8-2, which is completely crazy. I wrote about him in the recap that I'm working on for today, and he's number 1 in ERA and WHIP, and there's only somebody has 9 wins above him, and then he's next up. So I mean, that's a surprise just out of nowhere. I don't really think he's been on anybody's radar. So yeah, it's kind of a fun surprise. Those are the ones I like writing about the minors, right? You're hearing all the time about Noah and Hagen, and so it's nice when just somebody kind of pops out of nowhere and is having a killer season. But yeah, he absolutely deserves any type of consideration if they're looking at anybody to bring up, and he's earned the stripes. I mean, how do you get 1.39 ERA? That's crazy.
Yeah, Joe, you're the numbers guy, so you can confirm this for me, but I believe I'm going to try and do a number here. Let's say he's had 15, 16 starts. With his numbers, he should be like 15-0. I mean, the fact that he's 8-2 is great. I remember looking a few starts back, is like, boy, he should be a lot better. He's really got ripped off. So he's had some wins taken off his plate. But I mean, it doesn't matter. His peripherals are just outstanding and stunning. And he's obviously caught the attention of the White Sox.
Absolutely. He's on a massive run of games right now where he's just putting in, strong performance after strong performance. And, wasn't really on a lot of people's radars entering the season, kind of had a mediocre year last year. And, this is his age 24 season. And kind of, starting the year in Winston-Salem, he was a little bit older than most people at that level. But, he's really been able to locate a lot of his breaking balls a lot better than he did last year. And, that's, of course, made him much more difficult to figure out. And, yeah, hitters, really haven't been able to, sit on the fastball as much this year with him, and it's really paid off a lot. Like, I mean, he was even last year he was already very good at limiting the walks. He's been even better in that department this year, even better at limiting home runs, and yeah, just absolutely incredible stuff we're seeing from him. And yeah, one thing I had noticed as well was there was some shuffling around of, you know, prospects, of course, at the trade deadline just a few days ago. There were some changes in that, famous MLB Pipeline top 30. One of those changes I was a big fan of, which was Samuel Zavala moving up to number 30. Um, but Murphy really should be on there. I think, just objectively, I think he deserves that spot a little bit more right now. In fact, he probably should be even higher than the bottom of that list. So, yeah, it's been,
Yeah,
just a great run for Murphy, and, certainly one of the bright spots of the season so far.
we're experts on the White Sox system. We live and breathe and eat, and sometimes it makes us ill. That's how close we are to the White Sox system. But I don't think it's a lot to ask, say, MLB, it's in their name, to be aware enough of what White Sox players are doing to put Shane Murphy during it already mid. They're not asking to break the list in May. We're not asking for special consideration for Shane Murphy, but you're already shuffling guys. I assume at least a couple players have matriculated out of the list based on playing in the majors, and yet Shane Murphy, arguably the best minor league player in the system this year. That might not be arguably. I don't know. Sorry, Colson, you're playing great in the majors, but wow, you were a dog in the minors this year. You don't count. And he's not in the top 30. I don't know. It seems like that's not asking a lot. MLB to pay enough attention to say, hey, there's this guy setting AA on fire, not 35 years old. This isn't Omar Narvaez having a terrific hitting year for, I don't know, Winston-Salem or Birmingham. Yeah, he's 38 years old. He should be. No, this is a guy who's age appropriate and crushing it. And I'm sorry if he doesn't have the pedigree. And that's why some of this stuff, that's why the Southside Sox top 100, that's really your list. Pay attention to that list. There's other joints, Fangraphs and Pipeline and Future Sox and whatever. Come on. Did they go to 100? Did they eat and sleep and breathe White Sox prospects like the three people you're listening to right now? Or if you're lucky, even watching? No. Put Shane Murphy in the top 30. Hey, listen, we're talking about Shane Murphy because that was the name on my list. So let's just start in Birmingham because it's a fun thing to talk about. Other things about Birmingham that have caught your eye. The team is killing it. So, I mean, you could throw a dart at the wall and anyone you're talking about, yeah, there's been a few disappointments. There's been a few demotions. But overall, this team just finds a way to win. And one night, Riku Nishida he's 0 for 5. And then the next night he's 2 for 4 and he's the spark plug that you need him to be. It seems like it's always a guy. Guys are getting called up. I mean, Caden Connor's just blown through Birmingham, but Galani and anybody's even called up is a participant. Shane Murphy. Hey, Shane Murphy, top 30. This team is, especially given maybe the first half of this season, not so great. And what they've turned into is a juggernaut that looks like could repeat a Southern League title.
Fingers crossed. I mean, they can hit and they can pitch, which I think, I mean, obviously that's a good combination, right? They the one thing that they don't do though is they don't hit for power like at all. They have 39 home runs compared to the top, which is Biloxi with 84. That's a big old difference. And to be at the top of the league and not be hitting bombs like that. So like that to me, it's really interesting and intriguing and like, wow, that's really cool that they can do that. But on the other hand, you're like, oh, that's kind of concerning. Like, we really need power in Chicago, and there's our big team, and ooh, there's no power there. But I mean, they can pitch like out of this world. I mean, it's insane. They're top in ERA and WHIP and batting average against, second in Ks. They do give up free passes, but they somehow wiggle their way out of them, which Lord knows we need that at the big league level too. So it's just to me, it's just a super interesting team because like you said, in the first half, they were like, you're like, what happened to the Birmingham of, that kind of caught one at the end of last year. And then all of a sudden the second half, it's like kind of like what's happening at the major league level. They woke up and were like, hey, we're here and nobody's going to beat us unless we beat ourselves. But yeah.
Yeah, Regions Field is not a hitter's park, but you play half your games in Regions Field. So the fact that there isn't power and the fact that they're so good, at least with the arms in run prevention, is a kudo to them because you do have to do it half the time outside of the very friendly, cozy, pitcher-friendly confines of Regions Field. What is the magic formula that's going on in Birmingham, Joe, for them to be every bit as good, better than they were last year?
They're getting on base and they're doing it a lot. I mean, yeah, they've also been stealing a lot of bases without getting caught very much. A player who kind of embodies this whole approach would be, you mentioned him, Riku Nishida. He is, in the month of July, had that 447 OBP, was 12 of 13 in stolen bases. I mean, William Bergoya as well. He, had a very similar sort of month where, he got on base a lot, not quite as much, but still, had a very nice month in that department, 8 for 8 in stolen bases as well. Neither of those players hit any homers. I mean, they've both probably got I would say a 20 grade power tool, but I mean, they're doing about as well as you could possibly do with a 20 grade at power. I mean, those two players. So I mean, in terms of, contact hitting, and, being smart after getting on the bases, they've certainly done a lot of the little things the right way, which, is something we haven't really seen very often, but I mean, they've been getting it done, in that department. And I mean, when, you hit a lot of singles, you steal a lot of bases and you don't allow that many runs, it can lead to a nice hot streak like the one they have going on right now. And it's certainly been a huge team effort. There've been, I mean, I suppose, we've given Murphy a special shout out, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, there have been a ton of contributors for this hot streak.
This is the analysis that just sets everyone else down. I mean, listen, this is not, it's not West Side Story. We're not, there's no fights between sites or prognosticators here. But what I'm going to hit you with now is a type of insight that you're only going to get at a Sox Populi, Sox Pop on the Farm podcast. And that is, here's the downside about how well Birmingham's playing. And it's scary because this isn't 2005 White Sox grinder ball, which was sort of like grinder ball, but really they hit like 8,000 home runs too. So it was conveniently grinder ball sometimes. It was a really awesome PR thing. This is true, as Joe and Melissa just said. This is true grinder small ball, and this is a Getzian team. So with the Southern League just falling over for the Birmingham Barons, Chris is going to just sit back in his chair and say, "Oh yeah, I mean, I already have a lifetime contract. Now I'm going to have like a double lifetime contract. Because look at what happens when you just get a bunch of scrappy guys together, all sort of like me, probably all better than me, but all sort of like me. Look what they do. They win. We're going to have 10 shortstops in the lineup on the south side in like 2029. That's what we're going to have, which you could do worse because we've tried to do it with 10 first basemen and 10 DHs. That didn't work out so good. So, maybe the Getz formula will work. Can't believe I'm saying that. That's not, I'm going to delete that before we put this recording out, but
We're that's the highlight for the podcast.
So sorry, Birmingham, there's a downside to your success, and it's that we have to deal with that guy and his parking space at 35th and Shields. The arms there are more than just Shane Murphy, of course, and obviously the bigger, Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz now departed, but obviously those are the two to begin the season, and that stuff hasn't gone so great, but okay, so what? But you've got the Riley Gowans and Tyler Schweitzer. I mean, guys they more often than not they're stepping up, and yeah, sure, you're playing in a park that might be starter friendly, but by the same token, if you're only going to run by stitching like 3 hits together every time, you've got to perform to get wins. In fact, in the case of Shane Murphy, he's performed a whole lot more than 8 wins worth. And that's for a great team. So it really has been a top to bottom staff. And this is what they have. I mean, last year was platinum because you had, Drew Thorpe, Jairo Uriarte, just a number of guys who, and then Noah Schultz by the end of the season, they're like 7 deep with Sergio Santos managing there. And this year it's like sort of the unheralded guys, but I think you could argue they're putting up numbers that are, in the ballpark, and none of these guys, some aren't even in the top 30. So, this really has been almost like a top to bottom rotation thing. There's been hardly any faltering with the rotation, with the pitching in general, but certainly rotation. Guys like Gowans, fairly unheralded, but, he's a workhorse. He's had to have cut the homers a little bit. I know he's sort of susceptible to the big hit. But he's pitching successfully as well. I mean, there are more than just Murphy who you could see, perhaps continuing to move up and making an impact. That's pretty cool at any position, at any point among the affiliates, because we don't usually have that.
Well, and it's the starters and it's the bullpen, which I think is the best part of it, because gosh knows, bullpen arms are desperately needed, not only for us, but all across baseball. I mean, I think we saw that at the trade deadline of how desperate teams were to get bullpen guys. So, if some of these guys like, even Jake Polish and, if they don't end up being, viable starter type of arms, lots of guys to try in bullpen roles, from here on out. So to me, that's important too, that, not only do they have the good folks that are starting on the mound, but they also have lots of help in the pen. So
let's take a break. This will give both of you the promise that somehow this podcast won't go an hour. So we're going to take a break now and talk about some other affiliates. We got Birmingham out of the way. They're the important one, right? I mean,
can I mention one thing real quick before
Joe? You better. This is when you got to throw the flag. You're going to use your appeal. We're going to New York. Give me your tidbit.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Tanner McDougal, because he hasn't specifically come up yet. He has had just the most monstrous first 4 months. It's been pretty much the best case scenario for him, I would say. Mm-hmm. He was in our top 100 at number 63, probably was similar for the other sources as well that you had mentioned earlier. I know he was out of the Pipeline top 38 probably by a significant margin due to how much his stock fell last year, but wow. Outside of one start in July, he hasn't had any. Yeah, he's only had that one clunker in the past 2 months, and he's been having nearly all of those other starts have been like quite good, in fact. And he's up to 8th in MLB Pipeline now, and that is well deserved. So I'm glad that he has received the credit that he has earned, or due to his strong performance. So yeah, they have another star potentially in the making at the top of that rotation as well in Birmingham.
See, that's how good Birmingham's been. You can just a host, a very skilled and expert host, can just absolutely forget that Tanner McDougal, hailing out of Las Vegas, Nevada, exists. And it takes Joe with a Hail Mary before the break to get Tanner McDougal his due before we move on to some other affiliate that's not as worthy of talking about. Tanner McDougal forever, no matter what he does, will be one of the more interesting trivia pieces ever, having won his very first professional appearance and then losing, Joe, it's 20 games in a row after that.
I did hear that did come. I saw that from you in the Slack channel. I didn't actually, look that up afterward, but I believed it because it had been a very, very long time since he had won a game. I know he was winless last year, and he had been winless up to that point this year. So I believe that would be correct. It made sense.
And he wasn't great between, he had surgery, injury, so surgery almost immediately, the ACL. But nobody's that bad. Joe, Melissa, me, we could combine in a start at some affiliate and win. We get enough starts, we're going to win something. They put out like 14-run games sometime. I mean, they won't know what to do with our stuff. So we would have got to win. So yeah, incredibly unlucky, bizarro streak there. And Joe, you're right. Other publications, other outlets probably would have had Tanner McDougal around number 63 on their list, but of course, none of them go to 63, do they? So we don't really know. We know, so we could feel silly about it because it's like, wow, we really lost faith there. But no, the lost faith was earned, and of course, the refaith for next year, where he's going to be shot up to, obviously, presumably top 10, if not maybe even top 5, if not maybe top right-handed arm in the system, will be warranted as well. So keep it up, Tanner, and send the thank you note and gift card in care of Super Joseph Resis. You can still get him at the old address at Indianapolis field office because we got a box there. It'll get to him. Go ahead and send that thank you to Joe because he remembered you. Okay, we're going to take a break and then we'll talk about some other affiliate, or I don't know, we'll say goodbye. Hang with us for a minute or two. Promise we'll be back because there's like 5 other affiliates to talk about. Hey, White Sox fans. My name is Brett Ballantini and I am excited to host Sox Pop on the Farm, number 63. 63 podcasts devoted solely, we don't even know who the parent team is, solely to a farm system that shall be parent team shall be unnamed. At some point I'll just throw it to the field, but let's face it, this is the team closest to the majors. It does seem like Sergio Santos is, again, he's not a magician. Who knows if he'll ever be a major league manager? Who knows if he'll be a manager past this year? Maybe he'll get tired of it. He's a millionaire, whatever. But sweet dude, good dude, former White Sox, seems to have a okay touch, seems to be a decent leader of players, if not a great one. And, he's AAA managing, I don't know if that's like just a graveyard for, managers too. I don't think it's not the same way as it is with players where it's like a bunch of 4A guys. And Lord knows with the way it gets, and even Han sort of handled it, or maybe most teams do, where it's just like rent a players and with the Austin Slaters of the world, just a bunch of weirdos, some guys can't grow a beard. A lot of guys have beards, down to their knees, whatever. Just such a weird mix of players. And yet he has taken some of the touch he had in Birmingham when he joined the Sox system last year to great success. And he's duplicated to some degree with a absolutely revolving cast. The key here is I'm not sure he's been able to impart a lot of pitching knowledge because the pitching is certainly weaker, disadvantaged by playing in the ballpark they do. But man, this team can, photo negative of Birmingham perhaps, but they mash hell out of the ball. Vinny Capra goes to Charlotte and hits, slugging like 700 or whatever. So it's where bats don't go to die. He's managed to steer this team. They've been basically flirting with 500 all year after a hot start. I mean, he is continuing to fuel the White Sox with players, and there's nothing that he's doing or the Charlotte team is doing, but this team could take the customary turn downward. There's not such a considerable talent increase. 10% better, 20% better. Oh, I don't know. I'm not a scout. 2080, I don't know. But the talent is not that much better. Even when Colson was there, okay, he's a star in the majors now. Let's all lose our heads. But I mean, he was by and large terrible in Charlotte for more than a year. So he wasn't contributing a ton. They're just managing to win, sort of like the White Sox are doing right now. They're sort of managing to win, even though you look at the lineup and say, or you look at the roster and say, what is going on here? What is going on at Charlotte? And how is this team 51-55?
Well, I know that, we've talked about it a lot, that Charlotte is a bandbox. So I've never been, but, everybody says.
Beautiful bandbox.
Yes, it's beautiful, but it's totally hitter's paradise. But I mean, they are like the hitting powerhouse of the International League, and you have to play half of your games not there. So the fact that they're really mashing the ball, they're mashing the ball outside of their stadium too. So you do have to give them credit where credit is due. I mean, they've got a crazy #1 in home runs with 155. Like you can't just attribute all of it to the ballpark, right? But the pitching is horrific. They play half of the games outside, so yeah, it's a bandbox. It's recover when you go somewhere else and you're not recovering. Like their pitching is just awful. And I will they get better like this little bit that's left of the season? I don't think so, because it seems like any of the people in like Birmingham that are good, they're probably going to skip Charlotte. So they're just going to leap right over and come up to Chicago in September, what have you. So I don't think they're going to get any help there. So I just don't see them. I see them just continuing kind of to middle, because their hitting is just going to continue to hit. But I mean, those, we all are writing recaps, and just like every night, I mean, even if the starters, which aren't very good either, but if they do have a good game, chances are the bullpen is just going to implode anyway. I mean, every single game, it seems like the bullpen is giving up 4, 5, 6 runs. It's not even like, a run here or a run there. It's bad. Their pitching is just terrible.
Yeah. So I was just looking this up. They're second out of 20 teams in OPS this year in the International League, and they're 17th out of 20 in ERA. That, squares with everything that has been set up to this point. I'm frankly very surprised that they've been hitting as well as they have been. I mean, they have a lot of players who have been swinging it well in Charlotte, who have already played a non-negligible amount at the major league level and have not been able to hit major league pitching at all. Capper was already mentioned. We also have Jacob Amaya as well. Got Will Robertson.
Brooks Baldwin is struggling somewhat, at the major league level, and he's a Charlotte Hall of Famer.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Tim Elko struggle. There's a lot of names here that are succeeding in Charlotte and maybe aren't, quite translating to Chicago. But go ahead, I'm interrupting like a jerk.
Yeah, all good. But yeah, absolutely. Other than that, I mean, there's really not a ton to add other than they just don't have enough good pitchers on the team right now. When the other team can just score 6 runs against you, that's going to be a problem. There aren't many formulas that will lead to many victories at that rate. I will say Yoendris Gomez is a rare diamond in the rough in that category. He was the Knight of the Month. 4 good starts in July, and he had a good one as well to start off the month of August too. So he's on a bit of a heater there.
And I don't know off the top of my head. I probably should, but he probably hasn't won any of them. He probably hasn't won any of them. Has he, Joe? Do you know?
I'm looking. I do not know this. I don't really pay attention to pitcher win records at all anymore. Oh, I'm surprised. He's won 3 of those 5 games. Okay.
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 See? All right. So
About
even
500. He's a little over 500.
even the old school fans will harumph and say he's doing good then. All right. Way to go.
Shout out to Peyton Pallette, though. He had a hard time when he first came up to AAA in June, but in July, he had an incredible July. He only gave up 1 run over 8 2/3 innings pitched, and opponents were batting 172. So, gonna give Peyton the shout out. I've been bragging on the pitcher, so but he's been doing really well. I think Chase Plymell also has done really well as of late, although he's older. He's 27, so I don't know how much that counts if you're 27.
Yeah, Paulette is a guy you would have said going into the season, probably the most exciting name. Failed as a starter, injury issues or whatnot, but pretty exciting. Put a bullet next to his name in terms of his ascendance in the system and the fact that he was flagging a bit to start the year. Yeah, it's great that he's rallying because he's the kind of arm, if he sees his potential, he's the kind of arm can actually contribute to the bullpen rather than just fill a spot. Because basically we just have a revolving door of guys filling a spot. Grant Taylor, okay. I mean, the numbers in Chicago haven't blown away, but I mean, the radar gun is enough to tell you, okay, there's a potential there. But, usually it's just this, the Jared Schusters. Speaking of guys who just come in and given 6 runs, I believe in last night's game that I recapped, he pitched 2 outs or 1 out and gave up, maybe got through the whole inning, but gave up six earned to sort of blow that game. So it's just a new guy all the time. And none of those names are really going up and making, that's what's exciting about Gomez. I don't know that he's going to continue starting, but just the fact that there could be a live enough arm to help the White Sox, if not the end of this year, into next year. I mean, you just want to start building a foundation of guys who aren't just, the discards. Malachi Hayes and I will be having a podcast together soon where we debate the merits of Adrian Hauser. And I just don't think you necessarily discard guys, even if they only pitch 11 games for you. You need to sort of just run with guys. It's a whole nother podcast, so you have to tune in for that one. But yeah, I'm too busy. Now I'm lost in Charlotte Knight's arms. And that's a horror movie. You do not want to be trying to do a podcast and watch that horror movie at the same time. So I'm going to get away from it because it's frightening me. Who or what do we need to talk about? I've got at least one other person I want to talk about, but let's throw it to the field here. Stuff we haven't talked about yet because basically we focused on 2 affiliates and we're not going to get to much more than that. Because sorry, you got to play yourselves into consideration with us. Get a little closer to 500. And then we'll talk about you a lot more. But players or teams that we do need to discuss for July or overall, because there's 4 other affiliates.
Yeah. Poor Dash. I don't think we should really talk about them too much. Other than, it's like every once in a while they have a really good game and you're like, you can do it. And then they lose 5. So, but Braden, is there now, but he's kind of just like he did when he transitioned from Kannapolis to Winston-Salem. He kind of struggled a little bit. So it's not surprising me that he wasn't lighting, he's not lighting them on fire. So, yeah.
And he's getting some run in center field in Birmingham. That's exciting to see because he had been, I think, primarily, not exclusively, primarily right field. And it's good they're testing him in that way. And some of the highlights we've seen, he's already made some great plays. So and he's got an arm, and we know he can get assists. So I know the White Sox I guess they're married to Luis Robert Jr. They're going to give him $20 million. They're going to keep him. They're going to keep him and keep him forever. And bless you, Luis. I hope you have a great end to your season, but I don't think we're going to buy anybody. I think it's going to be Braden Montgomery. You play center field when you're ready. This team, they're even doing well, and I just can't be nice to them. Joe, thoughts? I mean, you can defend the virtue of your Winston-Salem Dash, or you can pick on him, also, whatever.
I will, yeah, I think we probably should discuss them a little bit. There were some positives, I suppose, with them. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. I've seen this written so many times. Alec Makarewicz. I have no idea how. I'm very sorry, but I've only ever seen that surname written before. But he had a big month. And that was, yeah, it was, in terms of like the Dash Player of the Month award, that one wasn't too difficult to decide on him on. Yeah, the 392 on base, 549 slugging, 4 homers, which led the team. Surprisingly, would have even led the mighty Birmingham Barons because they don't hit homers really. That was a big month, and for a pretty unheralded prospect, that was very nice to see. And yeah, Braden Montgomery as well. Probably would have been my number 2 choice for that award. He he's getting on base pretty often. And yeah, more 409 in the month of July. That was very, very good. Yeah, he started the year in Kannapolis, and yeah, so far, he's handling business pretty nicely over there. So yeah, much credit is deserved from that standpoint. There's not a ton of positives. I mean, we could go down the list. Nick Altermat has been a very good reliever for them of late, but yeah, I think that's about everything I would have wanted to discuss in terms of Winston-Salem.
We've memorized how to spell his name, but not necessarily pronounce his name. And let's face it, we're not reciting all the recaps, we're writing them. So, get it right. Carey. That's what I always remember. Care. I don't think I've got it wrong. Let's skip all the way down. Let's go down to the level that can just like nothing have 6 error games, can have 13 to 12 games. Sometimes they play 5 innings. Sometimes they play 10. They always play in the morning. They play at another continent. They're almost now, we don't really cover the DSL any longer because it's just too much of, in a way, a make-believe league. Not to have some sort of ethnocentrism that says until players are in the United States, they don't matter. It's just there's no coverage. It's a free-for-all. We look for trends. Those players make our top 100. That's top 100 people. Our top 100. And oftentimes, I know I get irrationally excited about DSL players because it's like, okay, I'm desperate for something. Usually you got to really sort through the system, find enough to get excited about, and sometimes you go all the way down to the DSL. Reudis Diaz was a guy that I got completely hot and bothered about, and I'm not sure that my excitement was completely unfounded. Not saying I know anything, and maybe he's had a bad year, but it seems like he comes up having some good outings, so I don't know. Anyway, rambling into Christian Gonzalez is disproving the notion that we should not cover the DSL, because for the first time I've ever known. Now I know the Luis Roberts and Lloydell Chappelli Juniors play all year in the DSL because they sign bonuses and they got to stay there for a year because there's some sort of tax thing, and who wants to make them give up some of their money to taxes by not playing their first year in the Dominican. That's why the stars never move. The preordained stars never move from the DSL even in that first year. Luis Robert played his whole year in the DSL. Even Christian Gonzalez did not do that. He, for the first time I think I've ever heard of, and I think Joe validated this for me, was called up to the ACL, and mashed hell out of the ACL as Joe honored him as the final ACL White Sox player of the month because he didn't stop. This is way too premature to get excited, but Joe, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really wasn't challenged much at either level. It was yeah, a rare player to have some excitement about. In those two leagues, I would say. Yeah, he did a lot of things well. Off to a great start in that extremely young, professional career. And yeah, absolutely. I have also not seen that before in terms of that mid-season promotion out of the DSL, but yeah, he was certainly playing well enough. If there was a time, I suppose that would be the time to do it.
Yeah, okay. We'll forgive him not being in the top 30. He's in the top 30 in my heart, but I forgive him not being in the top 30. And of course, we've seen how often it happens that players light it up. The transition just to the States can be big enough to have players, flame out even in Arizona and certainly not make much of a dent in A-ball. Abraham Nunez is young, but he's had a really tough year at Kannapolis. Ryan Burroughs went from like heir apparent Jose Rodriguez in every way, but off-track betting. But he struggled. He looked can't miss. Smart guy, all the skills, and he's had a rough now 2 years. So it's by no means a guarantee that you do well in rookie ball and it's a cakewalk from here. But you just like to see a guy. I mean, a guy who forces the issue to make the White Sox pay for a ticket from the Dominican Republic to Arizona. That alone, they didn't need to do that. So that alone is like, what is going on here? Maybe that's in lieu of a real bonus. I don't know. But hey man, way to put yourself on the map. That's that kind of stuff's impressive, and you never see it, and you certainly wouldn't see it based on merit. I mean, that just doesn't happen because it's like, okay, you did well. Now in 2026, come, get ready to come to Arizona and do your best there. Maybe we'll move you up quickly to Kannapolis, but this dude is just forcing his way onto the bus. That's pretty awesome. Sorry to jump ahead to go right to the Dominican Republic, but not exactly the credits are rolling here. But once we start talking in detail about the Winston-Salem Dash, it's like, okay, hold on now. I think I hear the playoff music. But before the music plays us off, Melissa or Joe, who else we got? We got anybody? I mean, I didn't type up any notes. So, I mean.
George Volkov, speaking of another like young person, because I think Christian's also 18. Now George is finally 19. I was very excited about him last year, but then he's really cooled off this year. I think he had like a hot like 2 or 3 weeks, and then he got sick. But he is really like, I was just hoping, I wasn't expecting like a big jump for him or like a lot of progress from him, but I was expecting to see at least kind of on par to where he was last year. And I feel like he's kind of slid backwards a little bit. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's tough. Some of the big names, I mean, of course, Schultz and Smith, I mean, got to sort of lead that list, because I mean, who knows what's going on with Noah Schultz, if he's just getting I don't think he's getting a wink breather, because he was limping out of the bullpen for that start when he first was revealed to be injured. So I don't think they go so far as to say like do a makeup job on him and fake bruise his knee so that he can sit for a month and get a breather. So not great that he's hurt, not great that Hagen Smith is hurt, not great that George Walco, even at a young age, is repeating level and not really showing much. And I know I tend to get like, for example, I've given up on Curtis Mead, right? It's like, okay, I've seen he's got 120 games in the majors. He hasn't made a mark. He hasn't forced his way into a lineup. Yes, he's young. Yes, he hasn't had a role. He's also listed as a first baseman. I mean, what in the world? So, but I know I'm giving up too quickly on guys. I want everybody to be Frank Thomas. Hey, by the way, the 35-year anniversary almost to the day of Big Frank's blistering the major leagues. Yeah, right. And somebody just decides to get like really well-timed souvenirs. Joe I guess he's already drank his bottle, but Joe has a recent souvenir. Melissa has a recent souvenir. I got nothing. But and I know we're all just waiting for the next Frank Thomas to come up and just crush the league. Or maybe the next Chris Sale to come up. I mean, even he sort of was introduced slowly via the bullpen. But just to have a White Sox prospect come up and just crush things, I know that's unrealistic because how often does that happen? Okay. But you want to see, you just want to see. I mean, I don't know what the gut is that the thing you want to see. It's not as easy as like team win-loss or something, but I don't think we're seeing it from Walcott. I don't think we're seeing it from a number of the heralded prospects. So thank goodness some folks more under the radar, maybe even outside of the top 30, under the radar are making their mark, because overall it sort of balances all out, because you can say, well, look what happened with Colson, the whatever magic dust they spray when you get to the south side, that'll just take over for these guys who aren't doing well when the White Sox decide to call them up randomly, not with merit. Sorry, Colson, he still shouldn't have been called up, and look what he's done. So, go figure what should have means. But the Wolko thing is pretty disappointing. Joe, is there anything you've seen in George's performance, aside from him being an area guy we all want to do well, that would say, other than the fact it's obvious, too early to give up on him, but you would want to see some footing, and you're not seeing it among several guys at that A level right now. We're seeing some stall out, your guy Zavala and a number of other guys sort of like, oh wait, you don't want them hitting the wall at A-ball.
For sure. That power, he definitely has it. He's just not showing it anywhere near as often as, I would have wanted to see it this year. Last year he was very, very streaky, and we saw flashes of excellence where it seemed like he was just making sharp contact left and right. Whereas it just wasn't consistent, and we're like, okay, we saw bits and pieces of it. We'd like to, have him put it together, and be more consistent with it over the course of the season. It just hasn't really happened that way. It certainly has been a step back this year, unfortunately. He's, been pretty spicy on the base paths, but I'd much rather have him, exactly, hitting homers, and ideally having an on base percentage in the high 300s. He's at 309 only this year, which is pretty mediocre. It's been unfortunate. It's far from over given how young he is, but certainly a step back. And that's kind of my impression of him right now. Before we wrap up on this podcast, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to note this, because it was explicitly brought up about Montgomery.
Right.
For the record, I agree with you on this. Yesterday, at the Frank Thomas event I was at, the person in front of me in line actually just made a comment to Frank Thomas about Colson's on a heater right now, or something to that effect, and Frank Thomas agreed, and he also expressed some exasperation about why he wasn't called up last year, which I thought was interesting, because the person in front of me didn't even bring up when he was called up. That was just Thomas brought that up on his own. So I don't know, maybe this is one thing where the Hall of Fame player, I don't know if he knows something, he saw something in Montgomery that indicated that he would have been ready last year. Personally, I'm not a Hall of Fame baseball player, so maybe I wouldn't have the intuition, but I thought that was very interesting, and I was very amused by it. He expressed some frustration with some of the decision making on that front.
You know what it tells you, Joe? It tells you that as upset, I'll say personally, I don't know that all three of us are, as upset as I am with Chris Getz as GM, that there are worse GM candidates out there. It's probably good that Frank Thomas isn't our GM. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. He's hitting 150. Get the kid up.
Yeah, for sure. Side note for the record. Yes, it was. bottle of vodka, I have not even gotten into that yet.
All right.
My fiance and I are not much of vodka people. That bottle will last us for many years, I'm sure.
Yes.
It
Yes.
was. I didn't get it because because I think we will particularly enjoy the product. It was, yeah, because of the person who
Yes,
is.
you had to overhear the GM talk. Sure. Well, Joe, I'll tell you. I can't. I don't know your fiance. I don't know you guys as a couple, but the bottle I brought out when we celebrated. I don't drink. When we celebrated, did the celebration podcast when the White Sox actually made the playoffs. Who knows what's going to happen when they make the playoffs again? We're all going to go on like blackout benders because it just doesn't happen. But yeah, that bottle will come out again if and when they ever make a playoff, because it never gets any emptier. It just sits in the fridge or sits in the cupboard and just never gets drunk. So yes, you two might milk that vodka bottle until your 50th. It could happen unless it spills. That's the only way we get rid of alcohol. If it spills, breaks, we leave it behind. So yeah, enjoy that.
I have some Jim Thome 600 wine that I can add to the collection. So we could, yeah.
Yeah. I had a bottle of Coupernay, Don Cooper's winery. I'm pretty sure he wasn't like tending to the grapes, but yes, it had his picture on the bottle. Coupernay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, I got it through the White Sox. I get it. I didn't. I can't tell you if it was good or bad. I didn't even taste it, but I'm not really sure you want to uncork a bottle with Don. I love Don Cooper, but I don't think I need to pour a Don Cooper bottle as he's staring at me. No. So yeah, Thome alcohol, Cooper alcohol, Frank Thomas alcohol. Frank Thomas has traded eugenics for vodka now. No, he probably hasn't traded. It's just bring it all on, including GMing, apparently.
He has Big Hurt beer too, didn't he? I thought he had Big Hurt beer.
Oh, did he? I'm unaware of that. Oh,
that sounds
wow.
Absolutely true. Yeah, that sounds absolutely true.
Pretty sure. I'll have to Google it when we get off.
That's probably a smooth pour. Yeah. Big Hurt beer. I didn't get that free product, so pouring Frank might be a little more palatable. Yeah.
Beer doesn't age well. Like at least the vodka and the wines would not be worse, but I think the beer would be very skunky.
Yeah, somehow the particles in the beer aren't the same as the particles in the wine. Yeah, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, we're going to wrap this up with one speed round question just because I thought of it. And so I'm going to add, because especially we've talked about mostly sunshine stuff, but of course there's some shadow stuff as well. Thanks Melissa, George Walker. We could just skip to this podcast, but I want to know, Joe, you get to go first because you have the most recent White Sox related alcohol purchase. You get to go first. The prospect at any level you are most excited about right now. So now Melissa can look at her notes. She'll have a better answer. Joe is on the spot now. And I know, and I was almost going to say, you can't say Samuel Zavala.
Yeah, I was not going to say Samuel Zavala.
Well, he's off the
don't get me wrong. I think that would be awesome. I'd go with Tanner McDougal, though.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for reasons. Hey, he snapped a 20-game losing streak. So what else do you need? He could have an ERA of 8 and he snapped the losing streak. So yeah, no, that's something to really get excited about. And I feel like an idiot for.
Yeah, I was going to say the most undeserved 20-game losing streak as a pitcher I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe there'll just be a doubleheader where he and Shane just get called. By that time, the White Sox arms will be so dead, like a doubleheader in September. Yeah, maybe they'll just get both called up. Come on, start a doubleheader. Start your service time. We don't care. We're not going to pay you when it's time to pay you anyway, so just start it. Who cares? Okay, Melissa, now that I'm crapping on the White Sox again, who is the most exciting prospect to you right now? We know it's not George Walco.
I wish it was. So, we already talked a lot about Shane Murphy, so I'll skip by him, but we haven't really actually talked about Caleb Bonnemer, and I feel like we usually do, but he's still continuing. The kid is still keeping going. So, yeah, I'm excited about him still, and I look forward. I mean, it seems like every time I recap, and it's usually once or twice a week, he's always doing something. So yeah, so he's my guy. He's my guy right now. Sorry, George, traded you in.
That was a good subtle pitch for some bonus pay too, Melissa. But yes, once or twice a week, no doubt. And thank you for doing that because that means I don't have to do it. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Yeah, man. Bonner, I mean, he's a guy that they drafted him like, oh, okay. That's your second round draft. Like, ooh, let's just get a prep bat. And he's from Michigan. And I mean, no diss. I mean, we all went to school in a northern state, and some of us played sports in a northern state. And it's like, yeah, you're just so limited. That doesn't mean you stink. It's just, you don't get to play as much. So I mean, it's great that he lit it up and was the player of the year for 5 years in a row or whatever in high school. But okay, it was in Michigan. But man, I mean, I don't know if there's anything to be wrong about, but my lack of my tempered enthusiasm is, I'm made foolish by that because, wow, he seemed like that. He got assigned to Kannapolis. I was like, what? Kannapolis, really? That's very aggressive. The guy's super young, and they're sending him right to Kannapolis. And he was like, yeah,
Yep.
what's next? Why am I not with the dash already? I mean, seriously, he's just ate it up.
Yep.
Amazing. I mean, it's not exactly Frank hitting the majors 35 years ago, like, okay, hey, I will be challenged by no man. But I mean, hey, you can only play at the level beat the level you're at, and he's beating hell out of the level he's at. I'll stick with a middle infielder.
I like his instincts.
What's it? Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, whatever it is.
He can like runs. He steals bases. He hits for a little power. Like he hits for average.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It seems like such an aggressive pick, and now it's like, okay. I mean, maybe these guys know what they're doing. I'm not going to go that far, but hey, at least there's some evidence. I don't know. And speaking of knowing what they're doing, I'm going to pick a guy because I'm an idiot and I just like stolen bases. And I won't pick Riku Nishida because, of course, he's all of our favorite, whatever. But I'm going to say a steal from last trade deadline. That's Bergoya, because I actually thought his steal rate was even better than it is. It's all right. I mean, he's got a lot, but I mean, I thought he was like not getting caught at all, and he is. And he doesn't, OPS isn't good or whatever, but I mean, he gets on base. So he doesn't hit the ball out of the infield, but he gets on base. He's a spark plug. He's taking on challenges. He's a total lottery ticket because I always like traded Tanner Banks for him. So that makes me sort of want to root for it a little bit more because you're sort of, not that I want to just be able to laugh at the Phillies, but you don't always want to be on the other end of those deals either. So it's great that Edgar Carroll's killing it for a rookie in the majors. Is like, oh wow, that trade. I remember we were doing a podcast when the news came up, and I think Malachi was a guy like, oh yeah, I'm sort of pleased that's the the guy we got. That's a pretty good name, and we're all just sort of crossing our fingers, and that's the last time we were crossing our fingers about Carroll because from the start he did so well in the system, is doing well in the majors now, and you want to win a few trades. You got to win a few trades eventually, like, I don't know, be 500. Let's not get greedy, not lose 100 games. So that's why I'll choose Bergoya because, like, I don't know. I'm excited, but really, it's Riku. Come on. I want that guy in the majors. I want a pest in the majors. I mean, Chase Mydra, he's pesty, but then he cut his locks. He's not got the surfer thing anymore. I don't know what he's going for anymore. And he gets banged up a little bit. He's not nearly the level of pest and pesky as Nishida. So I want to see that somehow translate to get at least close enough to the majors to say, hey, one little weird injury and he's up. And he's not quite there yet. So that's what I'm hoping. I know everybody's rooting for him. The team's
for sure.
Like, Ichiro gave you a bat. And,
yeah,
I mean, come on. The guy's he's a trip, and he's like a weird entrepreneur, right? Because he's like bringing over players from Japan to play in college. He's got like schools going and stuff. I mean, he's also like a minor league player. So, hey, more power to you. I can't even keep my interest in a podcast for an hour. So, go figure. Your youthful energy Riku serves you well. All right. Okay. Well, hey, guess what? We crossed an hour. Sorry. Sad trombone. I disappoint everyone once again. Melissa, thank you for sticking it out. It's been a fatiguing weekend. So go finish your recap and try and get some sleep. Hey, we are, and listen, we're, for those of you listening, are going to be freaked out over at our sister site or whatever at Sox when we go black for 8 or 12 hours or something at the start of the week. It comes at the perfect time. There's no minor league games. The White Sox have a day off on Monday when this podcast publishes. We won't even have a game until late on Tuesday. So somehow, Southside Sox never gets any consideration from SB Nation. Sorry, SB Nation, but you're not listening to this, right? You don't our podcast. But hey, look, they considered us when it came time to transition platforms to WordPress because we got nothing going on. So hopefully no readers will be disrupted. Anyhow, well, yeah. And then Melissa's right back at it with more minor league recapping. So perfect. Just take the week. Just take the week this week, Melissa.
I get to finish because I've done everything but Charlotte because guess what? Their bullpen was terrible. And so
there you go.
I get to talk about, well, they scored enough runs, but their bullpen was terrible. So anyway.
Yes, I forgot to mention, very important thing for Charlotte, and this will be brought up for the August podcast in a month. The redacted watch, hopefully by the August podcast, we'll be able to say, thank God he's gone, and maybe this team is trying to turn a corner with
moving on
Jagbags. But we'll see. We'll see. More likely he's in the majors again, so... Especially knowing this team. Yeah, I'm not going to speak it into existence, but I also know this front office we're dealing with. So sad to say, deep sigh. Thank you, Joe, for taking the time and of course doing the monthly recap that sort of provides the purpose for this podcast. And Melissa, in between games, again, just take next week. I don't mean take next week off. I mean, take the recaps for next week because you're doing most of them anyway. So yeah, just fill in the other ones we're not doing. But thank you for all the writing effort you're doing. Me, okay, I'll try to wake up in time on Saturday to do my recap. And we will meet all of you listeners and readers and watchers in about a month's time to find out who Joe picked as the overall affiliate player of the month and each little affiliate's player of the month. And we'll talk about exciting things and disappointing things. And I will end this podcast now so everyone can eventually, not you, Melissa, go to sleep. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everybody listening, watching, all that stuff. Without you, there's no purpose for us being here. And I'm going to try this podcast now. See you in a month.